Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Spice. My name is Angel.
And my name is Blake.
And if you've never listened to The Spice before, we are a variety show where you get two unprofessional opinions about sex, relationships, infidelity, and everything in between.
Yeah, that is right. So if you have any questions or maybe want some advice, you can send your questions to the Spice Podcast Official at gmail.com.
Yes. All right.
So what do we have in store for us today?
Today's episode is titled, He Subscribed to My Cousin's OnlyFans.
Yikes.
Before we get into that, though, we're going to read a submission from one of our listeners. So, are you ready?
I am ready.
All right. So this submission reads, it's kind of a long one, so hang in there with me.
All right. Buckling down.
Buckle down.
Buckling down.
All right. It reads, my male 25, ex, female 23, had started dating when she was 17 and 19. So he's saying him and his girlfriend started dating when they were teenagers.
Right.
We dated for a total of 4 years. We dated through the pandemic, went to community college together, and then we went and transferred to a university together. During our time in college, we had talked about her potentially being bisexual. It would be a little weird to talk about, however, she did express wanting a Tinder account to talk to other women, but she wanted me to run it for her and then relay their social media to her so that they could arrange dates. I didn't mind doing this at the time, but in hindsight, it was a bad idea. This started in about the third year of our relationship and continued until we broke up. During our junior year of college, she had an impromptu three-way with two other girls with no prior discussion with me about it. We talked about it after the fact, in which I asked her, so this means you're bisexual? There's no confusion anymore? To which she told me no and insisted that she's still straight. We moved in together our senior year and lived together for about 10 months. During this time, I still continued to ask her if she was bisexual and how she felt about the Tinder thing, and she still didn't consider herself bisexual. We graduated in May and moved back to our hometown, back into our parents' houses. I helped her arrange a date with a girl about a month into us moving back. When they went on their date, she told me she made out with her and that she was thrilled by it. A week later, she comes by to tell me that she's a lesbian. This took me by absolute surprise and just absolutely destroyed me. Like 4 months into the breakup, after no contact, she blocked me on all social media. After a year of us being broken up, I find her new Tinder profile, and underneath the sexuality section, it says bisexual. It made me really upset in the moment reading it, but made me realize that something has to be mentally wrong with her, meaning she needs actual professional help, and there's not much that I could have done to change things. I guess I'm wondering, how does someone just 180 like that to someone they loved, and 1 week talk about wanting to move in with them, and the next week no longer wanting to date them? And if you can, offer insight on what she may be going through, or what girls go through when they face sexuality issues. It would be super enlightening and help ease the pain of the breakup. Thank you for reading. If you have any other questions, let me know.
Sounds like immaturity. Like they're young. They're figuring out who they are. You can't be so critical and concrete. And I know like in the moment it's so brutal because like you make plans together. But when people are young, like they're identifying, they're figuring out what they want to do.
Yeah.
And if they met when they were teenagers,
17 and 19.
17, 19, she was 17, right?
Yeah.
So, a couple years in high school, and then like they're together throughout college, and she probably feels like she wants to figure out who she is, but can't because she made a commitment to you.
Yeah.
And so, now you have to be on the receiving end of the ultimate decision that gets made.
Yeah.
And it totally sucks. I'm trying to put myself in that situation. I would just try to understand that everybody goes through changes, like wild changes, especially when they're younger.
Yeah.
And they make big decisions, kind of just like left and right. Lots of big decisions are happening. And if you're not either like on board with it or like in it as well, I guess, like being involved in it, which she's not really involving you, it sounds like, then you're just subject to all the changes and you have no control over it. What do you have to say about that, Angel?
Well, I mean, you said that she's not involving him in it, but it seems like she is.
Like she tried.
Like she's trying to involve him in it. It seems like she's probably really struggling trying to figure out who she is.
Yeah.
And mind you, neither of your guys' brains are fully developed yet. So that's something to consider as well. Like
he's 23 now and she's 21.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's it's just a really tough time. Like I dated someone through high school, college, and into my early adulthood. And so I know that feeling of you made a commitment to someone and you want to follow through with that commitment. And in the same time, you're struggling with figuring out exactly who you are and how can you make a commitment, a real true commitment to someone when neither of you really know who you are yet. It can be heartbreaking and just really difficult to maneuver. But I mean, I have some thoughts on this. First and foremost, no matter what she's going through, it doesn't really heal the pain that he's in. So,
yeah.
First, I just want to make sure to, what's the word? To acknowledge and validate how
Yeah.
how the person writing in feels.
Totally.
Because you're heartbroken, and rightfully so, because you love this woman and she's going through something that you and went through something that you really couldn't be a part of because it's so internal to her.
Yeah.
And that's painful. So I just want to take a moment to validate that. But then on top of that, it's also important to consider that the way that women go through these experiences of sexuality are so different from the way that men experience them. And men who are, I don't want to say struggling with sexuality, but men who don't fully understand the scope of their sexuality yet have different challenges. And so something that I think is important to acknowledge is that the way that bisexuality and homosexuality is portrayed in women is very performative. So bisexuality and homosexuality in women is so often fetishized by the male community that a lot of times completely straight women who aren't sexually attracted to other women in any way find themselves performing bisexuality and homosexuality, turning interactions with other women into a really sexualized thing because they're performing that for men. And we could get into where that comes from, but I don't think we need to touch on that right now. That's not really the point.
Sure.
The point is that what winds up happening is a lot of women who are lesbian or who are bisexual don't consider themselves to be lesbian or bisexual for a long time because they really struggle, because for a while they felt like their sexuality was just a performance. Or they just felt like, oh, I'm just doing this because this is what we do when we go out and party. Girls make out with girls all the time. And I think that it can take women like a little bit longer. I remember watching this TV show once where it was like, I think it was the Mindy Project, and one of the characters said most real lesbians are like in their 30s, right? And it got me thinking, and I was like, why is it that people, that's not just from the TV show, like I hear people say it all the time, like most real lesbians are in their 30s, right? And I would argue that that's not necessarily true.
Sure.
Like most people are lesbian far before they know it, but they don't recognize that they're fully like lesbian or bisexual because they've just always performed their sexuality for men, and it just becomes this cycle. So she's just getting to this point where her brain is starting to develop and she's able to reflect and kind of figure that out. But to be honest, she probably doesn't even know if she's lesbian or bisexual, and maybe she's not. Maybe she's pansexual. Right? Maybe she could be feasibly attracted to any kind of person, no matter what gender they ascribe to, no matter what sex they were born as, no matter how they present. It just depends from person to person.
Because it's a spectrum, and it's not something you just slap a label on necessarily. That when like box it in and call it a day and just like move past it. Yeah, very true. And so I think that it's important, even though you're hurting and you're heartbroken and all of that is valid, it's important for you to recognize that there's nothing that you could have done, because this is a journey that she has to figure out for her own, and it's probably very confusing for her living in a society where, lesbian and bisexual encounters are so fetishized and pander to the male view. It can be hard to kind of navigate those waters and figure that out. So get comfortable and embrace it and all that. So she's just going going through a lot. And
Yeah. I do think that if she hasn't already, I do think that she definitely owes the submitter an apology
yeah,
for hurting him,
right.
not for needing space to figure out what's going on, but for not really being completely transparent and honest throughout the process. Like, she was in denial herself, maybe, and so maybe that's why she wasn't honest about it. But I think that it would still be the mature thing to do for her to go to him and say, hey, I am really sorry for what I put you through. I was
Yeah.
struggling with this and you were, in the line of fire,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. And I agree. I think that is the least, right, that she could do
Yeah.
is yeah, recognize it, address it, and apologize for it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really think he has done anything wrong,
No,
right?
no,
Yeah.
I don't think so either. I mean, obviously he said that he helped arrange dates for her and in hindsight it was a bad idea. So he recognizes that he probably wouldn't do that again if it came to it.
Yeah.
But like, you're a young guy, your girl comes to you and she's like, I want to arrange dates with girls, and maybe it's like new and exciting. And
Of
so you're
course.
like, oh, sure, like I'll try it. And then later you realize, oh, maybe that wasn't such a good idea. But that's
Yeah.
also not his fault that she wanted that either.
Of course. Yeah.
He asked at the end, I just want to address this too.
Mhm.
Maybe you can give your 2 cents and then I can give mine. We can end with an even 4. But
Yes.
he said, I'm wondering, how does someone just 180 like that to someone they loved? 1 week talk about wanting to move in and the next week no longer wanting to date them.
Yeah. I mean, when you're young, right? Every decision you make is such a big decision.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's not really a similar experience, but I had made a commitment, years ago with someone who was a little bit younger than me, a couple years younger than me. And I made a commitment that I would, once she was done with college, we would move away. We would
Mm,
move like a state, 2 states away back to her hometown. And, I was going to transfer work and start, a new life.
yeah.
And it felt like what was supposed to happen. And then as it got closer to it, it became a lot more real because I was still so young. I think I was 21.
Around the same age that they are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, you have these ideas that sound, you romanticize them and they sound great. But until the clock starts ticking and getting closer to that point, all the, what ifs start coming up. And ultimately, you kind of just have to make this like impulsive decision.
Yeah.
Like even though it could have been years, it's like you got to finally make the decision. Like, am I moving? Am I
Yeah.
staying? And, I chose to stay.
So you chose not to
I
move
chose
with.
not to move.
Good for
Right.
me.
And so she, yeah. And so she left and,
Mm,
it was hard, right? We had conversations and it was a really sad time.
yeah.
But it
She
was
probably felt the same way this person is feeling. She probably was like,
like
"What?
what
That we
happened?
were planning this. Like,
Exactly.
this is what I've been counting on for the last however long,
Yeah.
you know?"
It felt horrible.
Yeah.
I felt horrible because I felt like I had
I didn't
made
mean that in like a
no, I mean
your
it's
horrible way.
life goes on. And I think everyone's happier, but I felt horrible. I had kind of just like set this expectation
Mhm.
and then had to completely go in the opposite direction of it, right? It
Yeah.
was just there wasn't really a middle ground. I mean, you could
Mhm.
argue, you could try like a long distance relationship, but when
Yeah.
you're,
But
12
we
hours away,
yeah.
and I mean,
And where's the end in sight? How
yeah,
long are you going to be like, yeah.
yeah. So I think that is maybe similar to how that's going on. And all I can really say is since I wasn't on the receiving end of that, I
Mhm.
can't give advice on what it was like to move past that. But
Yeah.
all I know is that both of us ended up happier anyways.
Yeah, in the long run, which it's hard to
Yeah.
hear when you're going through heartbreak when people are like, "Don't worry, like you're one day you're going to be so happy that this happened and it's all going to make sense." People will say that
Yeah.
when other people go through breakups, they'll be like, it'll all make sense one day. Like you'll meet someone amazing. You'll be glad that you were single to meet them, or like you'll
Yeah.
get this amazing job, or like something's going to happen that's supposed to happen, and you'll realize why you're not in that relationship anymore.
Yeah.
But it's hard to hear that when you're in it. It's hard to hear that and be okay with that. You have to just feel the pain that you're going through and
Yeah.
let it go through you, let it come in its waves, cry and deal with it and talk about it. And yeah.
Yeah.
But I think that what you said was great, because he did ask, why would someone do a 180 like that to someone they loved?
Yeah.
And so you're saying that like life was becoming real and you just had to make this decision, like, is this actually what I want? And
Yeah.
it wasn't until it built up to a certain moment that you were like, all right, I made the decision.
Yeah. There's a lot going on in the person's head that you're not a part of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, I think that a lot of times people can be in denial about the fact that they don't want to be in the relationship they're in too, because they made that commitment.
Yeah.
And they feel a sense of responsibility to follow through with that commitment.
Yeah.
Even though it might not be right for them anymore, but they feel like they can't. They feel like stuck between a rock and a hard place. Like, I can't leave. I made a commitment. So they kind of like push that feeling aside, and they deny it and they deny it and they deny it until eventually it boils over, and it's like, oh, I can't deny this anymore. Like, it's unbearable.
Something has to be done.
Yeah. And it's very possible. I mean, that's how I experienced getting out of a relationship in my past as well. Was like, for a while it was in denial, and then it got to the point where I was like, oh, I don't want to be in this relationship.
Yeah.
And it all came to a head, but it was like over the course of a long period of time that I was discovering that. And so it's not necessarily that you did anything wrong and she didn't want to be in a relationship with you, but just that she's maybe realizing that maybe she wants to be in a relationship with a woman. And that can be even harder to come to terms with, because there's all the societal
society also
like pressure on people who engage in same-sex relationships. And family, like there's different family dynamics that could also play a role.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, not only is she worried about hurting you, now she's worried about being judged probably. And just all that. But
yeah. And maybe, he also mentioned that she had said, after denying that she was bisexual, she came to him to break up with him and said, I'm lesbian.
Right.
And so but then he found her new Tinder later on, and it said bisexual.
Yeah.
And I would argue that she probably felt like the easiest way to let you down was to say that she's lesbian, because then it, like, you can't take that personally, kind of.
Yeah,
right?
That could be it. I mean, I was kind of thinking that too.
Yeah.
But then I was also thinking, maybe she had kind of this split decision moment in her mind where she goes, I'm not like, I don't find myself incredibly attracted to this man, and so I must be lesbian. And so she just maybe rationalized it and assumed that she was lesbian. And then after some more self-discovery and growth, right? And then she made the Tinder and she discovered, hey, I'm not lesbian, I'm bisexual.
Yeah.
And then, it just kind of looks bad when you see that, because you maybe felt like that she lied.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, she's putting labels on things. We all do it. We put labels on things. We, when we're younger and we make these big decisions. And so it's just like, I'm trying to, give people a chance.
Yeah, I think you said it really well. And I mean, here's the thing. I feel like he's also struggling with feelings of betrayal. I don't know for sure, but I feel like he probably is, because he said during their junior year of college, she had an impromptu three-way with two other girls with no prior discussion with me about it.
Yeah.
That's cheating.
Yeah.
So, you can say, instead of impromptu three-way, she cheated on me with two women while we were in college. And then she continued to say she wasn't bisexual. Anyway, she definitely is at least bisexual, if not lesbian or pansexual. If she's engaging in sexual relationships and dating with women, then, that's what I would assume. Yeah. And she's just trying to figure out what that means for her. And you, unfortunately, submitter, have to deal with the heartbreak that comes along with that. So I'm deeply sorry for this, and I will also say, just like everyone else always says, there's a reason that you're not in that relationship anymore, and you're probably not going to see it until years later, and you're going to be like, thank God that we went our separate ways, because my life wouldn't be what it is now if we hadn't.
Yep.
Yeah.
I wanted to recommend something. There's a message. Or it's not really a message or a quote. I think Lao Tzu said it. He wrote the Tao Te Ching. He said that everything will come at the appointed time.
Yeah.
And Angel and I talk about that a lot, because it's true.
Yeah.
When you think things aren't the way that they're supposed to be, everything is as it's supposed to be. I mean, everything that's going to
Yeah.
happen is going to happen. So everything will come when it's supposed to. And
It can be so
the
hard.
more you fight it,
Yeah.
the harder it gets. So
It can be hard to not fight it too. I find myself doing that a lot where I'm like, things aren't going the way that I need them to be, or I'm not on time for this, or I'm not, like I
Yeah.
just get so frustrated, and I have to take a step back and remind myself, everything's just going to be how it's going to be.
yeah,
Like, just let life flow.
yeah,
And
like water,
yeah. Yeah.
like Bruce Lee.
So I think
be like
that's-
water. Anyway,
So yeah, I think that's all that I really have to say about this. Do you have any other things
no, that's
you'd like
it.
to add? All right, well,
Next.
we'll move on. Thank you. Next.
Thank you. Next.
Oh, that's actually the perfect song for that submitter. I'm so fucking grateful for my ex. Thank
Yeah.
you. Next. And you know how she's talking in that song about how every relationship that she's been in has taught her something.
Mm.
One taught me
There you
love,
go.
one taught me patience, right? She's talking about, and
What can you
yeah.
learn from this?
What can you learn
What
from
can you
this?
learn from this?
Hopefully it doesn't
Something-
just break your trust down completely and you feel like you can never trust anyone again. Eeh.
No.
Eeh.
No. I sense resilience with this one.
Young grasshopper. Yeah, I sense some wisdom here. Therapy. I always say therapy at the end of these. Therapy, because you don't want to let insecurities from this relationship follow you into the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you for writing in. We really appreciate you. We know that it's a vulnerable situation. It's not easy to share these things and know that someone's going to be reading them to a bunch of people.
Yeah.
So thank you so much for having the faith in us and writing into us.
Yeah.
Okay, so now for real, we'll move on. I found this Reddit thread that I think is just psychotic, and I want to read it to you.
Cool.
And after that, we'll pull a card.
Sounds good.
So this says, am I overreacting? I, 26 female, discovered my boyfriend, 25 male, is subscribed to my cousin's OnlyFans.
Yiko Wykos.
Oh God, it already makes me kind of like sick to my stomach, but we'll just keep going. Saturday, my boyfriend of 5.5 years. Holy shit. Okay, sorry, that just caught me off. I don't think that I really realized that the first time that I skimmed this.
Yeah.
5.5 years. That's longer than we've been together.
Yeah.
And I feel like you're my life.
Yeah.
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 Oh my God. Okay,
Yeah.
I'll restart. Saturday, my boyfriend of 5.5 years turned on his PC and I saw a nude picture. He promised to me it was from years ago off of a porn website. I did tell him it makes me uncomfortable with him having photos saved to his PC of women, so I asked
Naturally.
for him to delete it.
Of course.
To which his response was, "There's no way I can find that. It's so deeply hidden in my computer, it would take me hours to find it."
But it was open. It was
But
open.
it was up and open on his
the
PC.
Screen. So
Somehow he found it
who,
earlier that day.
Yeah.
But he can't find it now. It would take
What
too
kind
long.
of bullshit excuse was that? That was literally his brain was like full panic mode and just regurgitated something.
As I always say, those last 3 brain cells were running around
Yeah.
screaming, "Fire!"
Yeah.
So
Oh my god.
she says, "This is super sketchy to me because wouldn't you save those photos to be able to quickly go back and jerk it to them? And why would you save them? Why not just hop on Pornhub?" So this led me to go through his phone. I just knew that picture was of someone he either knew or an OnlyFans girl. He had his OnlyFans signed in on Safari, and I noticed he was subscribed to my cousin. My cousin posts twerking videos on TikTok, and he said her OnlyFans was purely a scam, and it was only the vids she posted on TikTok.
But why? He
So-
had to do some
But
investigating.
he had to subscribe to find that out.
Yeah, he had to make sure,
Right. He said he didn't see any of her naked body and swears he never jerked it to her, but I'm so heartbroken and disgusted. I broke things off with him. This was the man that I wanted to marry. We're working on building a house together, ... Is this forgivable?
Yeah, no, that totally hurts.
Do you think you could forgive it? Like, let's pretend like your brother or something like made an OnlyFans
Yeah.
and you logged into my phone and you saw that I was watching sexy videos of like your cousin or your brother and I was saving them and like lying to you about it.
I mean, I would genuinely believe that you were just like weirdly curious if it was actually him. Like that would be my first thought.
Yeah.
And then I'd be like,
well, cuz you know I would never do anything like that, but
yeah.
yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean,
Yeah, but here's the issue. Sorry, not to cut you off.
no, please do. I was losing my train of thought.
Okay, good. Here's the issue. It's not that he was just curious. Her cousin advertises her OnlyFans on TikTok.
Uh-huh.
And he's like, he found her TikTok or follows her TikTok or whatever. Somehow he's like, oh, she twerks on TikTok. I'm going to use that link in her profile and I'm going to pay for her OnlyFans.
Right. Yeah, no, it's all bullshit.
So either he, like, what were you expecting? Because you already knew what her content on TikTok was.
Yeah.
Why, like, there's no excuse.
Yeah.
Like, there really isn't any excuse. It doesn't matter if you're curious.
Yeah.
Curb that curiosity.
Yeah. I also, it maybe it's the way she worded it, but it just sounded so casual that he was signed in to OnlyFans on his computer as if maybe that's...
On his phone.
Oh, on his phone.
Like it was already automatically signed in.
On his browser.
Yeah, so she went to Safari.
Yeah.
You go to OnlyFans, you type it in, and when you go to OnlyFans, the account is already logged in.
So was it open on his phone already, though?
No. It says right here, he had his OnlyFans signed in on his Safari.
Okay. I was just curious because it just sounds like it almost sounded like she's okay with him having an OnlyFans, like, you know, a login, whatever.
Yeah.
But obviously not okay with maybe
the cousin
thing. So
yeah.
I don't know. It just sounded so casual the way it was like.
Well, I mean, and a lot of people don't care.
Sure.
Like,
and
like
that's fine.
I care. You know that I care, and you would care.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of people who don't, and there are a lot of people in non-monogamous relationships or open relationships, or, you know, there's tons of different types of people out there.
Yeah, it's a boundary they set.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it's valid for her to not care about that, but then to also be hurt, like, this is my cousin. Like, this is a family member that does these, like, sexual things online, and you're paying her to watch her do these sexual things, whether it's actually sex or not. Go ahead.
Can I ask something controversial here?
What?
Maybe we edit this out. If she was okay with him having an OnlyFans account, what is wrong with him following her cousin?
Yes. I mean,
if
because
not,
it's a family member.
If not previously discussed, what about that is wrong?
Yeah.
I know that it's weird and wrong.
Yeah. I mean, that's the but you could ask that about anything.
Like, specifically, what about it?
You could ask that about anything. You could say, like, oh, people in non-monogamous relationships will say, well, I'm your primary partner. You can date other people, but you can't have sex without, like, you can have sex with other people, but you can't have sex in our house. Or you can, right? So, like, everyone makes these own, like, boundaries for their relationship. And so, like, although you may not understand it, that's just the way that they feel about it. Right? Yeah. Which I think feelings are valid. But in my opinion, I agree with that in a way. I think that a lot of times we draw these, like, interesting boundaries when it comes to porn and OnlyFans. And a lot of people will be like, I'm okay with my partner following, like, sexual content on Instagram as long as it's someone I don't know.
Right.
But if it's anyone that I know, then I'm not okay with it.
Right.
But then there are people who are the opposite, and they're like, I'm okay with him following friends who are posting sexual stuff, but, like, why would you need to follow Kim Kardashian? She's not even, like, real to you.
Sure.
And so everyone, like, I don't know. I think it's kind of interesting to see how people feel about these things.
Yeah.
Because everyone's different.
And ultimately, it's whatever boundary they set.
Yes.
So if she didn't already previously set that boundary, then
that's a hard one.
Then there's really nothing wrong. And now they're going to address it for the first time. However, if the boundary was set that OnlyFans is a no-go, well, then he broke that boundary, right? So
I think an issue is that a lot of people don't talk about it.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I mean, if you didn't know that your cousin did OnlyFans.
Yeah.
But if you were your cousin and it was all over TikTok, you'd probably know. And
well, you would probably assume, like, he would never follow our family member, because at this point they've been together. It's like us. Think about us. 5.5 years. I would never think that you would follow my cousin's OnlyFans, like, because my family is your family.
Right.
And that's, like, it's just not even something that my brain would even touch on.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't even be a thought in my mind. And so so it probably wasn't in hers either.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people don't sit down and clearly define for their relationship what they think is cheating. Secondly, I don't think that people revisit those boundaries as time passes and as people
Right.
change.
Mm-hmm.
And third, I think that a lot of things are left out of those boundaries that are up for interpretation.
Yeah.
And people are human, people make mistakes, and I don't think that this is unforgivable. I
Right.
personally don't think that I could move past that, and I would always be hurting over it.
Yeah.
Maybe I could, maybe I couldn't, but like that's my cousin. So I don't know. I don't think it's unforgivable. I just think it depends on the relationship dynamic. If they sat down and they said, I don't think that porn is cheating and I don't think OnlyFans is cheating, so you can do that, would you think to be like, but no family members of either of ours?
No.
Like, I would never think to make that a disclaimer.
Sure.
Like, you can watch porn or you could do OnlyFans, but like not my family members. Like,
I mean, why would somebody follow anybody on OnlyFans? For sexual gratification?
yeah, for sexual release, sexual connection,
Yeah.
sexual activity. Yeah, it's, yeah,
So, I
for
mean,
sex.
yeah. So, yeah, I mean, if that was the intent, the
Mhm.
intent isn't like cheating on me with my family member. It's I don't know. It's still the same outcome. It just happens to be with your family member, which is bizarro waro.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't know, who knows. I think after that long together, it's not just easy to be like, dude, fuck you, I'm out. She's
it sounds
probably
like she
really
did.
struggling. She said that she did. Yeah, I guess she
Yeah.
did. She said she broke things off with him, but they're building a house together right now. So she's wants to know if it's a forgivable thing. Anyway,
Yeah.
girl, good luck.
Woo-wee.
Good luck with that. This is why I love me a man with sexual discipline. I love you. I appreciate you so much. Like, I don't really feel like, I don't know, I just don't really feel like I have much to worry about with you. And
Our communication is good,
yeah,
and we want to be good to each other,
yeah,
like still,
yes.
and always will.
Yeah.
Some people, I feel like they give up on that, and they don't necessarily always want what's like good for their partner, or like to be
Yeah.
good to their partner,
Yeah, that's true.
like to continue to be good to your partner.
Yeah, especially after like some time together, I think that it's easy to kind of drift into like the everyday, I don't know, to just
We're
kind
just
of like,
surviving.
exactly, like you just drift in, like when we talked about the roommate phase a few episodes
Yeah.
back, but it's
Mhm.
like you just kind of drift into doing what feels good to you, and your partner's there and you're glad that they're there, but you don't really give it much of a second thought most of the time. It's just like autopilot, right? Everything's autopilot in your brain, and it takes effort and energy to like care about your partner
Yeah.
instead of coming as naturally and easily as it did when you first started dating.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, the excitement
Yeah.
is reduced.
Yeah.
And excitement is like a motivator,
Yeah.
but you gotta find that excitement.
Yeah.
Anyway.
All right. You ready to move into the cards?
Yeah. What?
All right.
What we got? We got some cards.
Let's see what we've got today. So, again, for those of you who maybe this is your first episode, we are ending every episode where we take these decks of relationship and sex questions for each other. We take all these decks, we shuffle them together, and then we each pull one random card and ask the other person the question that's on the card. And that's how we end every episode. It's just a fun, lighthearted way to kind of...
Can be lighthearted.
It can be
It
lighthearted.
could probably be pretty deep.
That's true. We don't know. Some of these are probably pretty deep questions.
Yeah.
But anyway, would you like to pull a card or answer a question first?
I don't remember what I did last time, but I'll go ahead and pull a card first.
All right, sounds good. So here we go.
All right.
Pick a card.
You
You look like you're half closing your eyes, like you're peeking. You know how kids are like, my eyes are closed, I'm counting to play hide and seek, but you're like looking through your eyelashes.
You can see that, yeah. No, I wasn't.
All right.
They're all face down anyway. So.
Yes, that's true.
All right.
Go ahead.
If you and I were isolated alone for a year, what do you feel would be the best part?
The best part of being isolated alone for a year with you?
I'm sorry, but that's a very difficult experience for anybody, I feel like.
Yeah.
Don't they have game shows? Sorry to
No, you're
steal the
fine. What's
mic
up?
here. Don't they have game shows where people are like stuck in a room for like a month or two
What?
and they just give them food? And if you stay, then you like win a certain amount of money. But it's like, I mean, it's like solitary confinement in a sense.
Okay, so what would be the best part about being...
Yeah, what do you feel would be the best part about being isolated alone for a year?
Oh man, the both of us isolated all alone for the best part would be that at least we were in it together.
Suffering together.
Because isolation is rough. I don't think isolation is natural, normal, healthy, good.
No.
But at least we would be going through it together, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's like the best part, but
The best part would be who it's with.
yeah, that's true. I wouldn't want to do it with anyone else.
Yeah.
That's what I know.
Yeah.
A
whole year?
A whole year. Well, remember like COVID lockdown?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's true.
We thrived, you guys. We thrived during COVID lockdown.
Well, we had
2020.
I think we got lucky with where we were at in life with our jobs.
Yeah.
You know, we got a little furloughed, a little bit of unemployment.
We did get money, but
we were doing yoga and hiking, and you know, we were social distancing. We weren't like going to gatherings.
No, we were just like every morning we would go on a walk with the dogs, and we would probably do that multiple times a day. We would go on hikes, and we would hang out. We'd make smoothies and good food and like stretch and do pole, and like it was great. I hate to say it was great because I know that it was actually like a horrible time. Yeah. And so I feel like that's kind of insensitive.
True.
But
we made the most of it.
My experience, we did make the most of it. Anyway, that'd be the best part. The best part would be the fact that, you know, through this rough thing called isolation, we get to do it together. Yeah. And I don't know if you're willing to take that as an answer.
I'll take that as an answer.
Cool. All right. My turn to pull a card.
Yep.
So fan those out for me real good. Real good.
Real good.
All right. I always close my eyes and I pull a random card. Ooh. During a sexual experience, how important is an orgasm to you?
How important is whose orgasm?
Yours.
Just mine?
Yes.
I mean, the orgasm is important either way, whether it's yours or mine. But when we give like a scale, like 1 out of 10.
Do you think that it's like the most important thing or during a sexual experience?
No, I don't think it's the most important thing, but I think it's probably like up there with the most important thing, which is like actually connecting with with the person. Some experiences could be less connecting than others. Yeah. Which is fine. Yeah. In those experiences, orgasm pushes its way to the top.
It thrusts its way to the top.
It pelvic thrusts its way to the top.
It jackhammers mercilessly all the way to the top.
Yes. And then in other experiences, intimacy and connection supersede it. Yeah. So
that was a really mature response.
Yeah.
Mature. I'm trying to be Michael Scott, but yeah. That was a really mature response.
Yeah, it was an honest response.
Yeah. I like that. I feel the same way.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, you guys.
That concludes the episode.
That concludes our episode for today. Thank you so much for tuning in and for listening and for being a part of this community. And remember, if you have any questions, any stories that you just want us to tell or react to, any comments, anything you think we could do better, you can email us directly at thespicepodcastofficial@gmail.com.
Until next time. Stay spicy.
Stay spicy, you guys.
Bye.
Bye. There we go.
Solid. Thank you, babe. Yeah, I think that went good.
Me too.